Hello guys, welcome everyone once again to my YouTube channel. Today I'm very excited to introduce a very special idea. The idea by Grandmaster or Coin, who already published on my site, and he's slowly becoming a well-renowned chess author. He has two big databases on modern chess as well. Now, it goes without saying that it's fully endorsed, approved by me, and of course I double check, corrected when they were like in places where it was necessary, but overall I have to say it's his idea, and I was very excited when he offered this idea. Now the topic of our database is d4, d6, knight c3, this strange move order, and I'll explain you why it's kind of like important and might be interesting for not only d4 players, but they will be part that e4 players can also benefit from this material. Before we move on, I would like to remind you guys, it's always would be really appreciated if you subscribe to my channel, like this video. You can hit notification button that to know like as soon as my database published, will be the first one to get notified. Leave your comments, always appreciate it. I'll try to answer all the comments, and if you have any remarks, of course everything is welcome. It's, as you know, it always helps with YouTube algorithms. Now let's move to the material, and let me try to explain you what I'm talking about. First of all, d4 d6 move order. You might say, well, it's somewhat unusual. Actually, if you click on online database, you can see basically all top players, Carlsen, Karana, Dean Luren, Nakamura, have been playing this move. Well, maybe definitely not consistently, but you can really face this move. Now, what's the point usually for black to start with d6? Now, how we respond with white. So there is something tricky about move orders. Now, usually those who play d4 then maybe inclined to play c4, but here you might face e5. And this line, now the endgame is good. Knight f3, e4, knight g5, f5, knight c3, c6 stands really well for black. Now my second edition books covered knight c3, e4, queen d4, knight c6, queen d2 system, which is not in everyone's taste, and I would say that probably black is doing pretty okay here. Very sharp play here. And so we left maybe the majority play knight f3, but it doesn't fit for everyone, because number one, black can easily get to King's Indian now, and maybe you don't want to have knight on f3 in King's Indian. Maybe you want to play all these trendy systems where you go h3, bishop e3, or bishop e2, bishop e3, or Avrukh or Sandwich finally. And so it's not good for your repertoire. And of course there is an independent line where black can play bishop g4 here. So that's usually the issue here. Now what is left here, we basically have move e4, but now you have to face Pirc, you have to face Philidor. Are you ready for this? Are you playing both d4 and e4? Not many players can afford this. So, and that's why the choice is like, well, there is something to think about, and the solution that Orr suggested here in this position, move knight c3. Now we gonna cover, so there will be like 6 different lines here, 6 chapters and introduction. Now we have obviously move knight f6 and g6, and we have to play some kind of like Pirc systems. We'll talk about this. Now what is important, like if somebody wants to play something similar to Philidor, actually very strong move f4 is a very nice discovery. Probably like really few games here, f4 allowing, so we get like a very good Czech Pirc like with e4 and knight f3, so it's great find. d5, I wouldn't say it's a serious move, not many players will play this, but after a4 we just tempo up to compare with French, Caro, and so on. Now, quite often d6 players actually keep in mind transposition into Dutch, but Dutch doesn't work here because we play e4. So it's not just knight c3 against Dutch. It's after e4, black is in big trouble. So obviously you'll find all this. And finally, you can play c6, e4, and knight f6 maybe, but then after f4 we have a really good. So it's not nowadays. I don't think it's like a really playable system, so-called Pirc. So that's about transpositions. And finally, after knight c3, maybe, so as I mentioned, g6 will be Pirc, and here the coverage will be very interesting. So we're gonna e4, and I'll mention to you once we get to the chapter what's the system we pick up here. And one very important idea, what happens after knight f6, what we benefited from this move order. Anyway, we have to go e4. It seems so, not really. So there is this move, and that's actually the major idea that Orr suggested, and I was like really excited to see his analysis, and eventually I'm very happy to publish this material. So after h3, we wait for black move. So the idea to avoid Philidor, after e5, the endgame is quite unpleasant for black. g6 will play Pirc. So we are trying to avoid Philidor, which is becomes slowly a very decent opening for black. Meanwhile, Pirc, I don't have a very high opinion, even though like I used to play this. It's a lot of room for white to choose like different setups, and will play a very original setup. So let's go now this move order, like with g6, and so Pirc. So we play Pirc, a6, c6 will be covered separately, obviously. And now here in this position, our suggestion to play h4. So we don't enter like very big theory. So like, you know, f4, bishop e3. So there is something original about this. Like we play h4, very interesting idea. Nowadays, probably nobody's surprised seeing move h4. Now, black best response knight f6, and we play bishop e2, insisting on h5. If black plays h5, it gives away g5 square, where we can park our bishop or knight in some variations. And after c5, which is very thematic idea, we enter this aggressive position, which looks very promising for white. Now, this is one idea how we deal with this move order. Now, another idea. So that's another setup which gets through this move order. So when we started h3, so we committed for h3 already. So g6, if e4, bishop g7, and now we go g4. So that's what I mentioned, that is, so can benefit from this material by having a very interesting weapon against Pirc and modern Pirc. That's what I meant. So this setup is very interesting, and basically white wants to prove that actually there is this very positional system g3 bishop g2 that quite often I recommended to my students, and until some level it works really great when black players don't know exactly how to respond. And now we get basically pawn on g4, and we are trying to benefit this, and in many cases we would love to play g4 later on, but here we have this at early stage, and I think it still requires very accurate play from black in order not to get under serious positional pressure here. In some lines we keep the idea of queenside castle, very exciting position. Now that's the second idea. c3, knight f6, h3. What happens if black still insists on Philidor setup? Now we play e4, and after e5 we play bishop e3, something that we cannot get through Philidor move order if black plays e5 on move 3. We cannot play bishop e3, there is knight g4, we cannot play h3 because ed4. So we get it here. So interesting Philidor position, something new probably for most of you guys. And again, we get the pawn on g4, we play queen g2, bishop g2, knight e2 setup. Some lines castle kingside, some lines queenside. Very interesting, and could be fantastic surprising weapon, like in my opinion. And objectively, fighting for advantage really hard. So that's another direction here. Now so the next chapter will be dedicated to the endgame, which happens through this move order. So we played h3, black can play e5. Now we don't have pawn on e4, and we can benefit from this fact by playing g4. So our setup usually includes bishop g2, depends on the situation, developing dark square bishop, other to e3, d2, queenside castle, f4 in many positions. Again, if you have the file, by the way, g4 is a novelty. Nobody played before move g4, which looks very, very natural to me. So let's say, of course, g5, one of the ideas as well. So we have this kind of idea. So it's actually very rich position for white, very interesting endgame. It's hard to expect very big advantage here, but taking into account that let's say the lines, the theory, the ideas, and black probably kind of like surprising the opening. So you're supposed to have a very promising advantage, I would say, psychologically especially. And finally, I want to mention so interesting idea that Orr decided that it's impossible. It's very important to mention. He mentioned this move d5. So like the probability that this happens is very low, but objectively it might be a very decent move. What are the chances that somebody who started d6 and wants to play positions with the pawn on d6 accepts the fact that, wow, I don't know what's going on here, I'll try just to play d6, d5 and get, let's say, to Jababa London pawn down. So this will be covered. Black can play with precise play. Black might have a decent position, but we have a pretty useful move, h3, basically like extra move. I think it will be, well, the coverage like 4 different lines as usual. There is a6, e6, c5, bishop f5. Overall, very exciting play here, and that's basically the structure of this material offered by Orr and fully endorsed by yours truly, and very excited. I mean, not every day well, I see such an unusual ideas at the very early stage of the openings. Usually it comes a little bit later, like if you take into consideration my latest file about Bogo Indian, which was like, well, new strategy at some point with the pawn structure. Here at a very early stage, you have a really good chances to surprise your opponent and take him to the territory that he is not familiar. The whole point of this idea, and objectively speaking, it's not something that it's like just for one game. I think it's very challenging, very serious systems, and well, hopefully you will be interested, guys. You will be interested to get full PGN. It's a pretty big file with 6 different chapters, and if you are interested, please head over to my website ask-avrukh.com and download PGN. Now, as I always say, if you decide not to buy, so you got the idea for you to analyze this position by yourself, and you already know the directions, so you was one step ahead, so you can develop those lines by yourself and still play them and have a very interesting surprise in after first move d6. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.